So, like, how fitting is it that the very, very first thing you see in the very first issue of Firepower is Peanut Butter's eyes just looking up to the sky? Like, I just think that's absolutely amazing.
Just very fitting.
That's how you know he's one of the biggest and best characters in this book.
I
He's the
mean,
first thing you see.
did you guys notice that, like, right there, as we're going through the first page, they throw him a chip and it's covered in guac, like it's actual guacamole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was amazing because I think, the first time you read it through, they don't actually tell you that he's a vegetarian. But, this time you could, like, the second read through, you already know that. So you see right here, they're actually feeding him guac. I think that's a nice little attention to detail. Appreciate that. Welcome to the Firepower Podcast. This is a podcast focused on the Firepower comic book series by Robert Kirkman, Chris Samnee, Matt Wilson, and Russ Wooten. Today I'm joined by my friends and my fellow co-hosts.
Charlie?
And Ali.
Alrighty. So issue number 1, we just talked about, the opening with peanut butter and how fantastic that is, but it's a pretty quick introduction, right? Like we're already given a very quick first impression of each of the characters, and I think it's pretty cool. What are your thoughts, guys?
It shows how essential it was to read the prelude because it literally picks up straight where the prelude ends. He's like done working on the grill or trying to figure out what's going on with the grill, and you get to meet his current family now, 15 years later. And basically that he's just a regular guy living in the suburbs with his regular family, no kung fu, no martial arts, no crazy ninjas fighting. It's just a typical regular family.
Yeah, for sure. And last episode I said like the prelude is almost a completely different comic from this first issue on so many aspects. And I think it's nice in that way because it gives you a little breather after getting all this knowledge to kind of just get started with this stuff. But also it's not super comfortable because there are some ninjas lurking around corners and some dangerous stuff going on. So yeah, no, I love this start for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things I want to note personally. First of all, just going off what you guys were saying is, yeah, I mean, it does feel like a different book, and I think that really shows the strength of, Chris Samnee and Matt Wilson in terms of trying to, show us a completely different aesthetic. And we saw a little bit of that in the Prelude last issue where they show us the time jump between the two. There's a perfect example of it right there. But here we get a lot more of it, right? This, like you guys said, this entire issue is set in that context, and it just really shows you how great these artists are working on this book. We see even just our main character Owen looks completely different. Yeah, he has a different haircut. He's wearing entirely different clothes. He almost looks like a completely different character, like save for the face. So I think that's awesome. It really shows you, the next step in the journey. And of course, as ever, he's been following the butterfly. But another thing I want to point out is, if you're someone who's reading this story and you're just checking out the podcast and you're trying to get an impression of the first issue of the series, I do also want to echo what Ali said and say that you should read the prelude because I tried to imagine this as someone who read this for the first time without reading the prelude, and a lot of it just doesn't make sense. Like it kind of, and not in a bad way. It's very tame. Like you wouldn't expect something that plays it this safe and this like slow for the first issue of a new indie. So it completely lacks the hook that the prelude has, which tells you so much on the backstory and everything. Whereas here, you're already thrust into the middle of it all, and it's very hard to make sense of what's going on. And it's almost like a completely different taste. Like for the reason that Charlie mentioned earlier, the whole look and everything being different almost sells you on a completely different product, not knowing what that was before. So I really urge reading the prelude.
Yeah, and with the prelude too, it really just it brings everything all together. But like you said, And I tried doing this too, like just little thoughts, trying to imagine not knowing any of that info before. And like even just right at the start here, they forgot hot dog buns for their barbecue they're having at home, and you see Owen step out in those Jordan ones. I guess Waylon must have given him his shoe plug, and he steps out and he's looking nice. But I like if you didn't read the prelude, you'd just be like, okay, this guy likes shoes. You wouldn't really think anything
Exactly.
else of that, which I really like.
That's an excellent actually example. Yeah, no, that's fantastic because yeah, like you just be like, this is a hip dad, you know?
Or even when they try to race, like you see him being or using his skills to beat her, taking shortcuts, jumping over trees and whatnot. And like if I'm reading this for the first time, like why is he like being so extra? Why can't he just race his daughter regularly? You know, like you really do have to read the prelude for this. It'll make in my opinion, I don't think I would have liked it if I just went straight into the first issue like that. It would feel a little bit disjointed if I just picked up issue number one and tried to figure out what was going on.
Speaking of that, actually, like that's another fantastic example because yeah, like if I'm reading this and I don't know anything about the prelude, and I'm looking, yeah, like totally he's being like a bit much, and but when I look at this from the perspective of having read the prelude, I'm actually like, maybe there's like a longing for that period of time, right? Like maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
him kind of missing that context and just being that person at the temple. Maybe like even though he likes being a dad, part of him misses the excitement of that life, and that's the impression I'm getting from that having read the prelude. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, yeah, and something too, which I love about all of Kirkman's time jumps are so much stuff happens in between that time, and he does such a great job at just bringing little pieces back that you don't even think of, and are just like holy crap. And I just yeah, no, I love the time jump, and I love the whole different tone to this. But like you guys said, I think you could follow it. Without reading the prelude, but it would just literally seem like a family comic. It
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't have
Yeah.
the same it wouldn't have the same impact
like
it
you
does.
wouldn't think what's gonna happen later on, issue 10, 12, is gonna happen having read this without the prelude. It'd be a huge like leap, you know?
We mentioned during the first episode when we talked about the prelude, we mentioned that the prelude puts a lot of seeds, and a lot of them you don't get to see for a while. You don't get to see what they're about for a while, and these things show up. We're not going to spoil what they are, but they are worth it, and it makes it so much better when you've been waiting for it for months and months, issues and issues, to finally see if they pay it off or not, or how they pay it off. But I also like the different designs because you mentioned earlier, Owen looks different now. He has his hair like combed to the side. But as we go through the
Looks
issue,
like
we
a soccer
see,
dad.
yeah, no, absolutely. We see a lot of other people from his past show up, and they all look different. And it's nice to see the evolution of all these people throughout the 15 years that passed since the events of the Prelude, not just Owens.
Yeah, and you're not going to be bored if you're someone who's picking this up having read the prelude because you're also being introduced to a bunch of new characters in depth at least. I know you see them for a second at the end of the prelude like Haley and Doug, but here for the first time a lot of these first few pages are dedicated to really fleshing out Haley's character and you get a first impression of her and what she's like and the relationship she has with her father and I really like it. She's like a bit of a brat but not in a bad way, more like a witty brat. I'm assuming she's becoming a teenager, just under that, like 12, 13. And she has a friendly relationship with her father, but she also like she doesn't want to be treated differently than Doug in a lot of ways. She likes to be respected as an independent, and she's very competitive and fierce, and I love that.
Yeah, those are good points. Yeah, independent was the first kind of thing that came to my mind, but competitive for sure. And I love this first race they kind of got going on here, and Haley totally thinks that she just completely beat him to the grocery store to get the hot dog buns, and he's already in line with the buns, ready to pay. And you just see the kind of again Chris Samnee, like all these facial expressions, just incredible. Like you just see kind of the disappointment on her face, or she's like, I'm gonna find your secret root of how you got here. So I love that. And then yeah, Haley sees a friend from her past, and that's when she gets distracted and we get Guang in the flesh, with his nice slick back hair as well.
I like how cool Owen is with it all. Like he's not like a overbearing, overprotective, like nosy parent. He's just like he's cautious, but he also respects Haley there. And I like how we see that in the very first issue. But also like yeah, I mean what one thing that I think is hilarious is like just first of all the character himself. I forgot his name, but we'll remember. Oh, Tyler. Yeah, Tyler's hilarious, and we'll get more into that way later down the line in the podcast. But for me personally, like I there are a few artists like in my entire life, like I'd be severely disappointed if I managed to like, get through my life without getting some original art from them. And I think honestly two that always come to mind is like one's Bruce Timm, of course, for me, like having grown up during the BTAS time and everything. And another one I think is Chris Samnee. Like truly, I really fell in love with Chris Samnee's artwork. I wasn't reading Marvel back then when he was doing the Marvel books, but I've heard of the runs, and I eventually got to reading Daredevil. But when I first saw this book, I literally just started buying everything I could with his name on it. Like I didn't, even if it was something I didn't read. Like if he did the art, I just bought it just so I could read it because he had his art in it. I just love it so much. And what if you don't follow Chris Samnee on Twitter, you're making a big mistake, or Instagram. He posts like his daily doodles, his sketches, the commissions he does for other people, and even during like Halloween. I know the Invisible podcast and others have mentioned this, where he posts his like Badtober Halloween, daily Batman sketches where he does just different Batman stuff, and they're just incredible. Like his artwork is truly is incredible. He's a special talent, and I never get sick of it. I always just give me more Chris Samnee anything. It's like how I feel with what's his name, man. Well, no, I mean Dan Moore. Everyone feels that way about him. Like who doesn't love Dan Moore's artwork? At this point, like everybody, I think this generation loves Dan Moore's artwork. But
Yeah.
there's
just the cartoony, the Darwin Cook vibes it gives me a little bit. Like it just the simplistic.
Oh yeah.
Little simplistic, but still detailed. Like everything that needs to be important is just so prominent, and it's just incredible.
I was gonna say Phil Noto, and not that they're similar. I just love Phil Noto. I don't know why. Like every time I see something Phil Noto does, his artwork is just, to me, it's beautiful. But yeah, anyways, moving on from the Chris Samnee Stan Club right there, I'm gonna go back to the podcast. So yeah, we get Ma Guang interrupting Owen, and this is what. First of all, Ma Guang looks different. Anyone want to comment on that?
I just love how he just showed up out of nowhere and started having this conversation. This full black suit, black shirt, and Owen doesn't say a single word. He just gives him this like side eye the whole time. Doesn't say a single word. And
I love how he's in his 80s martial arts like movie phase. Like look at him. He just looks like a character from one of those movies. He looks absolutely hilarious. He's dressed in full black. You just know he's suspicious. Like, why is it?
Like he sticks out too. Look at the backgrounds, everyone around them.
The hair and everything. Yeah. The hair was just super surprising. I loved it.
Who goes to a store in the middle of the suburbs wearing a full black suit with black shirt, slicked back hair? Like he's sticking out for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if that's his goal or not, but he's if he's trying to stay hidden, he's not doing a great job. But no, I love the facial expression here. He just looks like Owen just looks so pissed. Like he's been praying that this life of his old life doesn't come back. And when he sees this, he just doesn't want to have any of it. And you can really just tell on his face. And when he goes back to Haley, oh, did you know that man, Dad? And he's like, no idea. He was just talking to me. Like, no idea who he was. Yeah. Just kind of brushed him off.
He got super stiff, and she noticed that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't even reply to her. They're walking back. She's talking to him. Can't believe you won, whatever. And then he's like completely in his own head. He's not listening to anything. To get his attention, she goes, Tyler and I are having a baby. And that's what he's like, no, what? That's not funny.
But it shows you how like perceptive she is as well. She's like very smart. Like already she picked up on that.
Because their relationship's pretty close. She could tell when something's not all right with him, even if he doesn't say it straight up.
Yeah, and they have their cute little chat where he tells her like he's always proud of her and that he's never given the Tyler guy another thought because it's her business. So it's like they really have this sweet little wholesome moment, father and daughter moment. I love it. And we get back home and, it's like we continue the expression game with Kelly's just like, expressions on her face. Like, you're the fourth person to arrive at the cookout. And I love Kelly, but obviously then we're introduced to Bill and Pam Johnson, the adoptive parents of Owen Johnson, and just another delightful couple of characters. And obviously you get the cute little moment with the introductions, and that's where we get the whole the girls starting to cook, and we also start to get an idea of the relationship here between Bill and Owen Johnson, and it's interesting because they're pretty. It seems like they're pretty close. It seems like obviously they're good parents. They're everything you could ask for in adopted parents for the most part. And Owen seems to really like them, but Bill's just giving him shit being a dad about the grills, and you get one of my favorite pages in all of Firepower, truly. And they bring this up later down the line in the RC Coda, which we'll talk about later today, which is the basically director's commentary by Robert and Chris in the back matter of the comic book, and it's a fantastic must read. But yeah, this whole page of them in the grill in the backyard, I think really shows somewhat the emotional depth of the book in terms of balancing the two lives of Owen, but also it gives you like obviously the Ranger, Chris Samnee again. Like look at this is Matt Wilson's colors are also incredible. Like this is such a beautiful scene, and it's actually the one I tried to make for the for the layout artwork, but it was just too big resolution wise or not the right fit. But yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, definitely a standout page for sure. And yeah, just this whole page, the dynamic with the parents, the grandma a little bit reminds me of my grandma too, just like the snarky comments she gives to the dad, Jesus Bill, like give her a minute to sit down, kind of like when she first enters. I just love that stuff. But I just the parents add so much to this, and they are just you can just tell how much they really do care for Owen. And I do love that line, the movie line he kind of faked as well. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, he was just like telling him, it's a funny anecdote he's explaining to this one guest where Bill says, then he asked if I'm adopted, does it mean my parents didn't love me? He was such a sweet kid. I would always say, most parents don't get to choose their kids, but because we actually chose you, we love you more. And Owen just like calls him out on his bullshit. He's like, you didn't even say that. That's from a movie. And Bill replies, it's still a good story. And I actually agree. Like this takes me back to Radiant Black in a lot of ways with the Mr. Burnett. Like I kind of they're like there's this bit of playfulness between the two, but here it's just more like like direct playfulness. They're just poking fun at each other, and I love how Owen's also not afraid to call him out on his bullshit. So that's great.
Billy looks like he never stops. He's always in that same mode where he's just like making jokes, giving Owen shit, and
All right.
it's nice to see. They showed the
I mean, I'll take
relationship
this
really
guy
well.
over Adam Eve's dad any day, right?
Oh
Like
God.
Kirkman's history with writing dads is suspect for sure. I mean, we've got Omni
Oh,
dad, we've
oh
got
man.
Adam Eve's dad. No, I'm
Is this
kidding.
is this the best Kirkman dad so far?
The best? I don't know about the best. Like I haven't read some of his titles to be honest, but it's
The ones
definitely
I've
one of the
read, I would
nicer
say, yeah.
ones.
The
Yeah,
ones
for,
I've read, I would say, yeah. But no,
Agreed.
some of these new characters are awesome. Even on the next page, you get Officer Reggie, Kelly's partner, teaching Haley how to get away with murder if she ever needs it. Could come in handy. And she wasn't too happy about that, but funny reaction from Haley.
that's actually true. Yeah, and then you just see like Doug, and you start to get an idea of what Doug's like. He's just telling these other kids, he's like, my mom is like a super cop. The stuff you see on TV. He's like, my dad's cool too. He sells furniture, but he's just like, my mom's way better kind of thing.
Little does he know.
Yeah, it's pretty heartbreaking for Owen because right, like it hits him on two different, right? It's like he's also got all these skills, and Kelly obviously knows, but at the same time, he just can't really show them, or can he? I guess we'll have to find out later on.
Yeah, some of these dynamics just go by. You get to see some of these characters, and Owen tries to impress his dad a little bit. Some of the furniture he's been selling, he just sold an awesome piece. But one of my favorite pages was this next page, and just the dynamic of Owen's mom just telling him how proud she is of of him. Like that, I just thought it was really good dialogue. Obviously, Kirkman's always good dialogue, but I really like this page especially.
Yeah, it really shows how close they are, him and his family, and it shows that this is like a good family overall. They're all close. They have everything you could ask for, and that's where the things begin to change because literally on the next page we see a ninja in the trees, same as the end of the prelude, spying on everything, and it's kind of a no shit moment because reading this through the first time I was like, oh my god, is he gonna attack the family girl? Like, please don't attack the family. Like, please don't ruin this beautiful image. But no, thankfully we get through the day and we're with Owen and Kelly back at the bedroom, and she's just happy with another successful Johnson family cookout. Everyone's been fed. Owen's done the chores, but she tells him that he might have forgotten the recycling, so he leaves to go do that. But then he comes back to bed and he decides he's gonna watch some TV. But obviously that's a cover for the meeting with Ma Guang, which again, gorgeous colors on the next page. I just want to say, like, every page we get, like you go from the bedroom light, and we got the dim light in the bedroom with the muted pinks and the dark shadows, and the next page we have a completely different setting outside the middle of the night where we have some darker blues, and it's gorgeous. Matt Wilson's colors are incredible. Russ Wooten's letters are also incredible, but we're going to see more of that down the line once we get some action, obviously. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, the meeting in the high school, like, it's kind of weird to choose the high school of all places when you're trying to be discreet. Like, it's so creepy. Like, what are the odds that you get? I mean, let's say you get caught in the high school, right? Like the high school pitch or whatever, the court. Oh my god, I don't know what the word. The field. Sorry, that's the field. And you get caught at the field, and like, it's gonna be a no shit moment. Like, it's kind of creepy if you see one of the parents after school just fighting some dude with like martial arts kung fu. You know what I mean? But we're not
Yeah.
gonna question their choice
Yeah,
now.
not the most discreet, especially after the supermarket buddy walking in with a full suit. I don't know if he's trying to hide it so much, but I love the, again, like you said, the just the color changes, like they get out of the room and right away just the darkness it has, but also the little bit of orange in the sky. It just looks really good. And this conversation again is just super awesome. Guang wanting Owen to come back, and Owen is just having none of it. Absolutely none of it.
You can feel the tension from the moment Owen arrived. You could feel the tension between them. Like, Owen is really not liking this, and he, correct me if I'm wrong, but he didn't tell Kelly, right? No, he just said he's
So
going downstairs to watch some
yeah,
TV. Yeah.
covered. Yeah, and
hmm
I love the way they play with the panel layout when they're fighting. The little fight between Magwang and Owen, because he's not too happy that people think that it was him who killed Ling Zong. Like, that's what he basically tells him. He thinks people at the temple. Sorry, Ma Guang tells Owen that people at the temple believe that Owen's responsible for her death. So that's a big oh no moment because Owen is not very happy to hear about that, and he kind of kicks Ma Guang's ass. Channels the firepower. You get this beautiful page, obviously, where he's holding the ball, and you don't know whether he's gonna channel it or not. And, the guy's sweating underneath, it, and he just channels it up into the sky. And yeah, that was quite the interesting battle. We know now that despite all those years, Owen's not rusty at all. He still retained all his skills, and he still has the firepower.
Yeah, that last panel especially just really, this might be definitely one of my favorite individual panels for the first couple issues, but literally just the black, just highlighting the power of the fireball specifically just looks so awesome, especially with the rest of the page to complement it. That was just perfect. And yeah, I love the
Like
heat coming off of his hands afterwards.
like you mentioned earlier too, the Samnee style is simple but detailed. You could see when he's building up the firepower, you could see the sweat on his face and on Guang's face too. Like, I love those little details. You won't. I didn't notice it on the first read, but rereading it again, and I love those little things.
Yeah, and they finally he tells him that Ma Guang tells Owen that there's no way he would have killed Ling Zong because he knows how much he loved him. He was there, he saw it all, and I'm glad that Ma Guang says that because after everything they've both been through, I think they both needed that. So they hug each other out, and it's a beautiful page. Masterful shading from Chris Samnee, just gorgeous. Just, I mean, even these little intimate moments are beautiful and get the attention to detail they deserve. But yeah, he just lets him know that he needs to come back to the temple. But Owen's obviously not. He doesn't want to do that. He has a family. He's a different person now, and he's telling Ma Guang that. But he's like, While Guang's warning him, he's like, "Look, man, if I could find you, who else could find you? You're not safe." So, and that's where he leaves him. Owen goes back home, and you get this moment of like, it's almost like inevitable. Like he knows it's inevitable. Like he has this like he's almost facing reality right now. Like he's almost like mentally preparing for what's gonna happen because he goes up to his wife, his kids, and he just really appreciates them for the moment. Looks at them in their bedrooms and just while they're sleeping and just like really, it seems like he's grateful for everything that he has, and he really he's trying to hold it close before shit goes down. And that's how the comic book ends. But one of my favorite pages in the series as well, where he just gets into bed, he puts his head on the pillow, closes his eyes, and gets ready. He's going to bed, and the angle of the page changes, and we see that there's a ninja on the ceiling, and it just shit's about to go down at the next issue. That's where we end on a cliffhanger. So wow, what a way to end the first issue. What did you guys think?
Just awesome. Like again, like so different from the prelude, but again, we're at the end of the first issue and we're right back to where we were before. And just that little bit of uncertainty that everything's going to be okay and that the family's not safe itself just kind of keeps you on edge. So, but again, if you don't read the prelude, can't really help you with that.
I remember when I first read this, I binged the first I think 9 or 10 issues. But when I first read this issue, and I was noticing I noticed the ninja, and even the next issue when we see the ninja a little bit more, all I could think of was like, how are these two worlds gonna collide now? Like his regular suburban life in America and his previous martial arts life at the temple. Like I couldn't wait to see more of that dynamic, and it does not disappoint.
And we had both just like read Invincible, like part of
Yeah.
like I mean I read Invincible a bit before that, but I had just read Invincible. That's how he's getting back into the books, and we were both kind of like shook. We were like, is he gonna fucking kill everyone? Like, is he gonna like commit like mass murder in this like beautiful like neighborhood full of like such a? Is this like set up? Like every time I
think
see
about
those
it.
grill pages, I'm like,
Yeah.
is this set up for death? Like how Kirkman is, and I'm just like, I was so cautious at the beginning of this book. I was very cautious with who I liked because I was like, man, I like all these characters, and I'm scared that he's gonna kill them all. Like I like Haley, I like Doug, and there's gonna be some moments down the line. Like we are gonna lose people, but my God, like I was so concerned at the beginning of this story.
Yeah, and that's what I love too with getting a new set of characters is you never know who's going to be important. So like you said, like a lot of like if you read a lot of just like DC and Marvel stuff, who the important characters are, kind of who's going to die, and sometimes there feel like there's not as many stakes because things are going to be rebooted, how it's going to go. But in this, it's just you anything could happen, and I absolutely love that about this book.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the things you guys brought up earlier is that we are going to get a lot of environmental changes. We are going to go from different place to different places. We are going to get the artists drawing different things, coloring different things, lettering different things, and it is going to be an amazing ride. Like, you've already seen the difference between the Prelude if you've read it in issue 1, and there's a lot. And one of the most amazing parts of issue 1, which we're going to dive into right now, is the letters. No, sorry, not the letters page. The RC Coda, even though, as Charlie pointed out to me earlier, it wasn't actually named yet in the first issue. I think they named that later down the line. So we'll probably find out once we do the episode of that issue. However, I love this. RC Coda is awesome. It's the kind of thing I feel like many of us who really love certain comic books, probably most of us to be honest, maybe I don't want to speak for everyone, but I feel like a lot of people wish that they had this in the comic books that they were reading, like ongoing runs, because it's such a cool unique window into the mind of these creators and how they approach these comic books, and even just the discussions regarding the comic books by the two of them. And I love it.
Yeah, honestly,
designs too.
Oh yeah, that back matter, the whole back matter, is just such a treat. But the RC Coda especially is something personally I've like, obviously another name for an RC Coda, but a letters page like this is something I've never experienced personally, and it makes you care about the series more, and it just liking the creators more, and it gets you more invested into it.
Yeah, and speaking of, let's dive into some of this. So obviously, as you guys already mentioned, there's the initial sketches and some other sketches for the characters, which we'll get into later because that's after. But yeah, the beginning just has some discussion. We're not going to talk about everything because obviously we want you guys to be able to go and read this for yourselves and enjoy it because it's fantastic. But some of the standout things that are mentioned is Kirkman asks Chris Samnee, how is this different than working on a superhero comic? And one of Chris's answers is that he says he feels like he's worked on a lot of superhero comics, and obviously that makes sense given how many different Marvel titles he's worked on. So he says that he wanted to try something different, and this was his chance to do a martial arts epic. And I kind of love that because I feel like even though we do have other martial arts sort of comics in the big two and even in other places, I'm personally like I like the Shang-Chi movie, but I'm not the biggest fan of the character. Like not enough to pull all the comics. It just doesn't interest me that much personally. Even though I do like the character and I will be watching the movies, it just doesn't hit me that hard. But I was always looking for a martial arts comic that to enjoy that was different, that was more focused on martial arts epic and those kinds of elements, even a little bit into the supernatural. And I like Iron Fist, of course, but Iron Fist, it's been wavering in and out of like miniseries and all that stuff. And the new series with the new Iron Fist has been such a delight. So I've been enjoying that. But I gotta say, Firepower has hit all those all the needs for me. Basically, it hits on every level.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And another little point, one of my favorite points of this whole back matter is just them explaining how like Kirkman kind of just compliments how Somnee can just draw regular people in regular clothes so interestingly. And I just love his like passion for that and explaining the first couple of years that's all he did and the first series. And I think that like that's such an underrated aspect of just art in general. Like you have all these flashy costumes all the time, you have all this cool energy beams going on, but like when the simplistic stuff really just helps everything all together.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the three Wei Lun designs, he said that because there were so many different like initial designs for Wei Lun, like different clothes and everything, Kirkman said that he actually took one of those other designs and made a different character out of it. So it's always cool to get into like the behind the scenes and see what they did with certain things. That was awesome.
One of my favorite parts of the first page on the letters was when they're both talking how they're both getting old and they can't remember or have trouble remembering like what he should draw or what he drew 10 pages ago, and Kirkman having a cheat sheet of what characters do what their names and like what they look like. I like that little insight into their creative process because at the end of the day they're just regular people too. They forget shit all the time.
Yeah, and that's literally what it sounds like. It's just they are talking about the book, but they seem like they really get along, and just the way they work together, it's super cool.
Yeah, and one thing I actually like and I appreciate them pointing out because it's related to a particular question I had regarding the format was, one thing Kirkman said that he found the OGN, which is the prelude format, to be really freeing. He said almost too freeing to quote him, and he said to the point that the story was originally supposed to be around 72 pages and it ended up being 154 pages. It was awesome to me to be able to just kind of live in a scene and not worry about truncating it to fit into a normal 20 or 22 page story. And he asks Chris Samnee if he enjoyed that format, and Chris Samnee says yeah, because he's used to mangas where you get a lot more pages and you allow the scenes to breathe more. And I really liked how he put that because when you read the series, and we're up to 23 now, I think, or 22, so we've read a lot more issues, and we see that I think frequently throughout the story. Because I was always saying like I know how hard he works on this Chris Samnee, it's just evident, and I hope like even though God, God bless his hands, because God, that shit must hurt and take forever, but I want one of those scenes in every issue, but I also don't want to ask too much of the artist. But man, he delivers. He gives us those scenes that you want to see. Like just this, Charlie was talking about it the other day where he said I just got the hardcover and was rereading it, and there's I was looking through the hardcover and there's those pages where they're just the entire page. They take up both pages and they're gorgeous. And so yeah, I love the OGN format. I really it was such a cool way to tell a story, and I think they exceeded expectations there.
Yeah, I loved it. And this was the first book I've read in that format. I'm not a manga guy or anything. And I like, again, we said this last episode, but for how long it was, it just flowed so well. And I love that they got a chance to do something a little bit different, and it was really refreshing.
Yeah, and another thing he pointed out that I think was amazing was that Kirkman says that one of the things he's doing on the series is trying to write the issues as 20 pages each because that's where he likes them. That's where they fall lengthwise on most of the books. So he plots them as 20 pages, and then he says, and then as I'm writing the script, if a scene needs to be expanded or if there's something that doesn't really work that I need to add a scene for, I'm just like, well, I guess this is a 22-page issue, and because we're so far ahead, I'm taking advantage of like if the issue needs to be 26 pages or 22 pages or 28 pages, we can just do that so the issue is the best it can be, which is awesome. And that's honestly the gift that your professionalism, and he says that to Chris Samnee, has given me as a writer. Because if you were slower and it was harder to get a full comic out of you, I wouldn't be able to have the luxury or being like, hey, Chris can handle a couple more pages. It'll be fine. Poor Chris. But yeah, like that's a lot.
It sounds like Chris is the one that wants to adhere to schedule more, and Kirkman's more like, oh, just we'll screw the schedule, we'll get it done when we get it done.
No, I love that too. So everyone has their own needs and wants.
Yeah,
That.
There's one part too where Kirkman talks about how he was a big fan of Street Fighter and just martial arts movies, but as he got older, he realized there weren't a lot of actual martial arts movies that had people throwing fireballs, like a Hadouken from Street Fighter. And that was one of the inspirations for the book. And we could definitely see that. I think before I read all this, we mentioned in the first episode, the first time he did the firepower, it looked like a Kamehameha or a Hadouken or something like that,
Yeah,
It's cool
yeah,
to see where the
I think
inspiration
they
came
say
from.
this in there, like, yeah, Chris Samnee says like that form, it just works, and it's so right, it's just so natural, it just works. But yeah, another one, probably my favorite point in this whole page is Chris Samnee's pet peeve of drawing detailed shoes and Jordan specifically. I
Yeah.
love that whole thing. I absolutely love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To quote the quotation regarding the the firepower, he says it's a little derivative of a whole lot of things that I've internalized over the years, and this is Kursomni. Street Fighter video games and Dragon Ball cartoons. Everybody sort of has their Kamehameha form, I guess. I think you referenced Street Fighter back in the day when we were first talking about this. It's hard to improve on something that's so perfect. I just love the hand shape. It just makes sense. So I just went with that. Where did you get the idea for this? So and that's where Kirkman talks about his love for
Yeah.
the movies and everything. But regarding the the Jordans, so yeah, Kirkman asked him how he enjoys drawing Jordans, and somebody says he hates it so much. He loves Kirkman, but he hates drawing specific shoes, and that he had a mental block regarding getting the shoes right, and at one point even getting the headphones. So it's interesting to see that even an artist super talented like Kirkman, he's in a lot of ways he's a perfectionist, maybe, or maybe I'm getting it wrong, but he got stuck on this particular issue, and I don't blame him. Like those shoes are hard, but man, I gotta say, every time we've seen them in the series, it's been a delightful moment, and it's a really cool way to add a little detail to the characters.
Yeah, I such a cool characteristic for this book, and something immediately that I just caught on to. Like right when I saw that first cover, I'm just like, oh, okay, like this, I'm in for something weird. And just the whole way, the Jordans are such a as much of a pain it can be. It's such just a prominent thing in this whole series for two of the big characters, right? And yeah, no, I really appreciate the struggle he's going through to put those in the books.
One thing you said earlier was regarding the character expressions and how good he is at drawing the faces and expressions. And actually, I mentioned before how Kirkman, rather than being verbose or doing a lot of dialogue here, he's actually given Chris Samnee more room to take over and do the speaking with the artwork. And here in the back matter, he says. This is Kirkman saying, honestly, it's just me leaning on your skill with character emotions and character interactions. I mean, these are to a certain extent some of the dullest pages I've ever written, but they're absolutely engaging. Especially the insane 2-page spread of the cookout where it's all these interesting people in the scene and it's fairly difficult. I love the flipping burger in the background. I thought that was a really nice touch where he's flipping the burger like a cartoon character and the burger's flying through the air. Yeah, like even I love how they even gave us little insight into that moment in the book because yeah, we really appreciated that moment. We were just literally talking about it a few minutes ago, And yeah, I guess he knew that we would appreciate that in a lot of ways, or maybe not. But I certainly love the.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like his visual storytelling is top notch. I said it before and I'll say it again. Those first 10 pages, 15 pages of the Prelude by themselves are amazing. Like some of the best comic book that I've read in my life.
Yeah, and we finally get to the end, which is the sketchbook gallery. And first thing that strikes me is how interesting some of the initial designs were for Owen. Like he looks pretty angry in that one on the right, where he's just like has his hands up,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
damn.
I was gonna say he kind of gave me some Guang vibes, some Guang
Yeah.
vibes. But no, these are super interesting to go through. Just seeing not only the clothes they're gonna be wearing, but just the facial expressions. Just trying to picture some of these other designs in the book just did not work. So I think it's kind of a hindsight thing, but the designs they went with just fit so perfectly, and I don't think they could have done much else, to be honest. Or it's just awesome.
We're looking at the snowy Arctic flashback Owen is what Chris calls it. And he has this funny note. He says, Arctic flashback Owen sounds so much like a repainted 90s Batman
Yeah.
toy. And it really does. Like, I'm collecting those toys these days, okay? And I'm telling you, that's what it sounds like.
I was
And
gonna
he
ask you. I
says,
didn't know what toy he was talking about, but I'm sure you did.
oh yeah, he says, "Hey, when are we making some firepower action figures?" Yo, Chris, Robert, I know you guys probably never gonna hear this, but if you do, please make the action figures. I'll buy them all. We'll buy them all, no problem.
You have our
All,
money.
I want that
all,
Waylon
I mean,
with the drones.
all jokes aside, there is a serious lack of firepower merch on the website. I know they've got some graphic novels and some other things, but there isn't enough. Like, give us some posters on the Skybound. Give us some like mugs or something, man. I love firepower, and I'm always there on the live streams. What do they call it? Comics Vault lives whenever Sean's there, and I'm always bothering him like, dude, do you have a firepower thing today? Do you have a firepower thing today? And I'm just sure everybody's sick of seeing me on these live streams asking for firepower exclusives because it's always other shit, right? Like it's like, all the other image titles they've got hot ones. Usually Walking Dead, those variants by Finch and all those other things, and all the other exclusives. And I know my friend Marty, who's the moderator of our Discord, and our fellow co-host from another podcast, he got the Twig variant by Daniel Warren Johnson that actually glows in the dark. So I just want something for firepower, guys. We got like two cool variants and I've never seen them again. Come on.
One day, we got to push for it, and it'll happen. Just got to stay persistent. But yeah, no, these designs just such awesome back matter. Like I was so shocked you got this in a first issue. Like normally this is something like personally I've never seen like in a normal floppy issue. You
Dude, it was
normally
in the free comic book day one too.
yeah, you normally
you
get
would
at the end
usually
of
find this-
hardcovers and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
That's pretty valuable stuff for sure. Like even in normal trades they don't put any of this stuff. So I was really impressed with that.
I love the Ma Guang designs so far. They're very like I think he's the one who had the most iterations so far until they reach like the final look for him. But
Yeah.
they like the first few designs look like he's a little bit of a wimp. Like he doesn't give me that bully vibe as much as the final design they went with.
Yeah, dude, that Waylon page where they show all the different Waylon designs. So we got like Zenyatta Waylon on the right here with the beads and everything. But I think something's funny. Chris says, so many different ways we could have gone with Waylon. Gonna have to put these others to good use at some point down the line. And that's where Robert says, oh, we will, don't you worry. I've already got plans for these alternate looks as different characters. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I feel like I know exactly
we
what
all
he's talking
know
about.
what they're gonna use it for.
Yeah, exactly. But I just
Yeah.
want to say that illustration on the bottom where Waylon's like standing in the crane pose with his hands out and he's blowing the bubble gum. That is the
some
most
Karate
Waylon
Kid.
thing ever.
That's straight out of Karate
Yes.
Kid too.
Yes.
That
I was
is
gonna say when I think
beautiful.
of this character, that's literally what I see.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous, beautiful, like intricate artwork right there. But yeah, I mean, he makes the joke there about switching to Converse. Chris Samnee makes the joke about switching to Converse All Stars going forward, and Robert says never. Nike for life. For me, the most important thing about Wei Lun is that he looks friendly. It is important to me that that he be more lovable than anything, and he really is. He's a lovable little dude, isn't he? Like he's just this like man. I remember like in the first issue in the Prelude when Chen Zhu like punches him in the fucking chest, and I thought he was dead. I like legit like no, like no, like not the best character. And then thankfully he didn't die in the prelude, obviously, as we see here.
Yeah, but so again, designs for Wei Lun were awesome, and these Magwan ones, I love the difference of hair he kind of goes with here, and I just
The TV one is my
the
favorite.
number 3, yeah, the face, like his
Yeah.
smile there.
That's some Dragon Ball Z shit right
Holy
there.
crap! I was just like, what is going on?
And then the ninjas, that was interesting. I feel like the one on the right just is like something that kind of came out of Power Rangers or something. It looks
That looks a little bit more alien to me than
Yeah,
just the regular
exactly.
ninja.
Yeah, it was pretty.
He called
It's
it a
pretty
crab
cool.
type plated armor.
Crab type. Yeah, that's interesting.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
like that bottom left design too, like him with the
Evil
turtleneck.
dude.
I could see him kind of crawling through the supermarket with that little turtleneck there.
I love how the guy at the
Yeah.
left is like the evil dude.
Yeah.
Like this. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and then something they say about the beautiful Ling Zan on the next page is that Ling Zan is the first character I got right in my first attempt, and Ma Guang, who I still didn't have right on my fourth or fifth try. And then Robert says Ling's original name was Xuan, and he says it was pronounced Xuan. And then he says in the end they decided to go with something that read phonetically, so we couldn't have to spend years correcting the pronunciation. Is that you learning from what was the invincible character, Angstrom Levy?
Angstrom
Levy.
Yeah.
I think that's what this is, Robert. I think this is lessons learned from Angstrom Levy and some other characters. But anyway, that's a fun callback to that.
Good choice though. Good choice though for the long run.
I think it's interesting that on before the last page on the not even
I didn't
on the
catch these last time. There's more Magwang designs.
Yeah.
Like he's a child.
The child one, yeah. I don't know what's up with Magwang, but yeah, no, we could get like a whole bunch of like alternate Magwangs. There's a like Magwang is the Angstrom Levy of this book right here with these sketches.
Oh boy, don't speak it into existence.
And I think the most interesting thing is on the page where we get the kids' designs, and I think one of the thing that struck me the most was how Haley was originally called Nancy Johnson, and I don't like that. I really don't like that. I'm kind of glad they went with Haley. I think that sounds
Haley works. I think Haley works better. Seems more youthful. Like Nancy, you don't hear. I don't know. Maybe it's
so
I wouldn't say it's an
strange.
outdated name, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
For a kid, like you don't hear that a lot anymore. Nancy.
Yeah, you don't hear that as much. But yeah, Doug looks fantastic, and yeah, and I guess like when you think back to it, I never even thought about it in the moment. I just thought they had the posing like for fun or dynamically, but we always did have the question in the back of our heads like, oh, well, when will the kids eventually learn, or just like be taken out of the book in terms of like in a safe house or something? Because that was it was either gonna be one or the other, but you'll see down the line what's gonna happen. But yeah, I think Kelly, obviously I love Kelly's design as well. I think she has a very friendly look, but also like she has this badass cop look when she's got her uniform on, and her expressions change to match the context. And Bill and Pam's designs. And the most important character, of course, of all the series, the one who literally is the very, we start issue 1 with the opening page, this character, and it's Peanut Butter.
Yeah, I love that. I love how they sketch her beside the legs too, so you can get kind of the feel of the scale or how big the dog's gonna be. I love that.
Dude, Peanut Butter is the best. You don't even know how many people have like sent letter page messages asking about, myself included, asking about or demanding the safety of Peanut Butter because
half the letters are asking about Peanut Butter.
Yeah, she's precious. I mean, she, I'm not even sure, but Peanut Butter is precious, and we got to protect him at all costs. Feed him all the guac there is, guac for days.
That's 4 days.
That's an environmentally friendly dog right there. I just gotta say.
And was that one thing we mentioned about the dog being vegetarian? I know he said that early.
Yeah,
it was in they talked about it a little bit.
Did they mention it in the prelude? I know they mention it formally in the book like twice at least, but there's even a point where. Oh no, that's a spoiler, so I can. But yeah.
No, Robert mentioned it in
yes.
when he was talking to Samnee like earlier. He said there was a farm in California that all their animals are vegan.
Yep.
It kind of inspired them to make Peanut Butter vegan or vegetarian too. Yeah.
So another seed that they planted, I think they didn't say it, like they said it wasn't going to be prominent until later on. But again, like you just kind of picked that up early. I love that detail. It's just so cool.
Yeah, and then the last page you get I love that. I always wondered, like, I think they've shown this, I'm not 100% sure, but like the alternate covers for like Invincible and things like that for the first issue and then the one they landed on. And they do the same thing here, which I love. They show you all the covers that were considered, and then obviously the one that they went with. And Chris tells us how he did them with no pencils. And
That's the crazy part to me is that he
yeah,
just sketches it. He does the quick sketch to get an idea of what it's gonna look like, and then he goes straight to inks. He doesn't do pencils, and that's crazy to me. Like that really shows you how talented he is, and the fact that it comes out that
I
detailed
think
and that good.
I think Robert's reaction to it is just telling, where he says, and this is Robert is like a veteran at this point, right? He's done so many comics with so many
Yeah.
talented artists. We're talking like people like Ryan Audley, right? People even in the mainstream, like he's worked with all like Lorenzo Di Felici, all these different talented artists. And here he says, this is definitely one of my top 5 all-time favorite covers that has ever appeared on my books. So simple, so striking, and I agree. The fireball, the hands, the look on Owen's face, and yes, the shoes. It all comes together to form something very, very cool, and it gives you just a hint of how cool this book is going to be. There's a wild ride ahead of you, dear readers. Get ready. And I do agree. This cover to me is just as iconic, in my opinion, as
Yeah.
Invincible #1.
Yeah, that's super super high praise. Like you said, Kirkman's worked with so many fantastic artists. But I agree. Just like sometimes and a lot of the time, simplicity really goes a long way, and it's just so like organic. You got the Jordans prominent out there, and I love that. It looks like some of these alter covers. I don't know if he was purposely trying to hide the Jordans so he didn't have to draw them, but no, I love what they went with, and yeah, fantastic.
I agree. I mean, you compare it to some of the other covers, like indie covers that are amazing, like Radio Black #1, the cover by Michael Cho. I feel like this cover by Chris Samnee for Firepower #1 is just truly, I just love it. And if you have the bougie book, the super, the book to have for Firepower, the collector's book, which is for the #1 at least, which is the #1 per store gold foil variant. It just looks so much cooler with the gold foil. It just pops. And but yeah, beware if you're a collector, and I'm gonna save you some trouble right here, and you're into Firepower and you want to collect them all, and you want the nicest book, the one I just said, the #1 per store gold foil. Be careful because some of them have a defect, like a
A lot
manufacturer
of them.
defect.
A
A
lot
lot
of
of
them.
them, yeah, where the back cover is like has a tear. So the highest you could probably grade out of that is like a 9.0. So be careful if you want like a really high grade, like Near Mint Plus, 5x1 per star gold foil. You're gonna have to check those back covers before you buy them because they do come with that defect. So be careful out there if you're looking for them. They're starting to become scarce. And the series has never had like any mentions of options or whatever. Nothing yet, of course. But Kirkman does have this tendency to get all his stuff optioned at some point, or he just naturally writes things that lend itself to the television or movie. In my opinion, it just works well for that format, and I think this is no exception. So, yeah. And I think that's the end of this issue, first issue. Anything you guys want to add to this Firepower preview? I love how they do show us like next issue and then show us the next cover. And I love, like I told Addie this before, I love the cover to issue #2 for so many different reasons. Obviously, the whole family's on there, but I just love how Peanut Butter's on there too. Just like look at Doug just gripping Peanut Butter for dear life. I love that cover.
Definitely, yeah, no, definitely fantastic. But yeah, no, this issue, fantastic starting issue. Like we've said over a million times, read the prelude. It definitely just brings this whole thing together, and can't wait to get into issue 2 because this whole with that ninja lurking there, who knows what's gonna be going on.
Yep, the cover is just a little hint of what's about to come. It's about to get crazy, and I can't wait to get into it. Just gets better and better from here.
I mean, we ended with a goddamn ninja in the bedroom. Either they're gonna
Yeah.
get into a threesome, or they're gonna get into an entirely different kind of threesome. So I'm telling you right now, crazy shit's gonna go down in the next issue. I've been trying to get one of my letters printed in the Firepower thing. I'm pretty sure I said the last episode, but I still am. So so one of these days, I'm sure it'll make it in there. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Follow us on Twitter at Firepower Pod if you're interested in keeping up with, just with us on social media, chatting, having fun, and announcing whenever we have those episodes and everything. And if you could drop a subscribe or a review, it really helps the almighty algorithm, which is it ultimately helps us grow in everything. So we really appreciate that. Thank you for listening, everyone, and have a great day.